Hey, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of A Few Short Minutes, the pod, where we just want to remind you that there are a multitude of resources out there to help you in just a few short minutes a day change your life. Today, I have my very first pure keynote speaker, and I'm super excited. You guys meet Amanda Heel, and let me tell you about Amanda. She is a resilience expert with an extraordinary life story. She survived being born 14 weeks premature in the 70s when such tiny babies were not deemed viable. So true. Even today, that's still very, very dangerous. She was so small, her father could hold her in his hand. The oxygen which kept her alive at birth damaged her eyes, leaving her totally blind. Despite this, Amanda has continued to surprise people with her professional and personal achievements. After graduating with honors in law from the Australian National University, she embarked on a 17-year legal career. In her spare time, she's climbed an altitude of 10,000 feet in Nepal. I want to talk about that. And conquered her phobia of getting lost to travel independently, both within Australia and overseas. In her keynote talks, Amanda shares her 5 keys to increasing resilience by building courage. When not speaking, she is a podcaster. You guys should see her setup. My gosh. And author of multiple books, the latest being Seeing by Vision, Not by Sight. Wow. That title, it evoked a whole load of emotions in me when it clicked. An amazing title. Amanda, welcome. Introduce yourself.
Hi, yes, I am from Canberra, Australia, the capital, and it's summer over here, and so that's where I'm from. I'm almost 54. I turned 54 in March, and I, as Stacey said, I had a big career change. I used to be a government lawyer for 17 years. Then I was laid off, as you guys say in the US, or made redundant, as we say in Australia, very literal. And I retrained as a John C. Maxwell speaker, trainer, and coach. And now I am a motivational speaker.
That, gosh, yeah, what a career change to go from law to motivational speaking, and a John C. Maxwell one at that. That's really impressive. So, talk about your experience with, being sight impaired and what that is like for you as a lawyer and now as a motivational speaker. How has it enriched your life and led to you building your own resilience?
Oh, that's a great question. Well, what's it like? That's kind of hard because it is all I know. So I have nothing to compare with.
Sure.
I know intellectually that I can't see clouds and I can't, do certain things, but I'm also extremely stubborn. So if someone
Mhm.
tells me I can't do something, I will usually find a way if it is at all possible. There are services now which I can use which have completely changed my life, like IRA, which is a service based in the US where I can use my phone and an agent in the US or in a US territory can see what's going on through my phone and describe things to me. So if I wanted to make sure my backdrop was straight or I was in the center of shot, I could just call Ira and go, tell me, what can you see? So those sorts of things have been a game changer, particularly in my current business as a speaker. I don't have to spend hours fighting with a picture that I can't see. I don't post stuff upside down on social media anymore, which I used to do, believe me. And I remember
Mm.
posting a financial statement instead of a picture once, and someone,
Oh,
thank goodness, came and
oh
told me.
goodness. Yeah.
So, yeah, so things are a lot easier. But as a lawyer, it did affect me. The main thing it affected me with was reading. But because I was based mainly in an office and I did a lot of written advice work and giving advice over the phone, I didn't do a lot of court work. I did a little bit, but not much. It wasn't too bad. The hardest things were faxes on that old-fashioned thermal fax paper that they used to use.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I
Was
can
that
imagine. Yeah. Okay.
it fades after a while, and so document scanners, I used to use a lot of technology, and I still do. So I've got VoiceOver on my Mac, which speaks to me. And I can touch type. I've been doing that since my 7th birthday. Had my first typing lesson. I use document scanners to read print. Nowadays, it's so good. I can take a photo of something with my phone, and it will read it to me, which is great. So
Mhm.
yeah, technology has been like a real game changer, but I could tell 1,000 stories of funny things that have happened. Clients who had
Pre-internet friends, pre-internet, pre-technology days. Yeah, for
yeah,
sure.
yeah, the internet was just starting to come into its own when I started work in 1997. So, yeah, things were just starting to come into their own, and I could look up cases and legal precedents and stuff, but a lot of stuff was still in print.
Mhm. Yeah, and I don't think they make law books in Braille, do they?
No, no, no.
No?
You can get them put into Braille, but they're so big that,
Right.
like, Braille. Okay, the New Testament of the Bible,
Mhm.
15 volumes that thick.
Holy crap. Yeah.
Lord of the Rings, all 3 books of
Uh-huh.
the Lord of the Rings altogether, 25 volumes that
Oh
thick.
my yeah, woof, man.
So, yeah, it's not practical to put stuff in Braille, which is, large volumes of
Right.
things.
Right, that makes so much sense. How did that lead you to be more resilient in your life?
Oh, yeah, thanks for the reminder. Well,
Great.
I think it was drummed into me ever since I was a child. My dad, he ex-military,
Mhm.
quite hard in some respects, quite strict. He didn't pull any punches, and he said to me at a very young age, "Look, in order for you to compete on an equal footing with your sighted peers, you have to be better than them. You have to work harder, you have to work longer, you have to do more to be the same." And that has always been, I guess, a core of how I do things, and it can be a disadvantage at times when I'm stubborn and I won't ask for help, but I'm getting better at asking for help now, and not trying to do things the hard way. And so, yeah, I guess that's always been a core of my being, and that's always been, I think that's toughened me up really.
Yeah, sure.
And yeah, so in I know in my book, one of the first sentences is I say is, I'm one of the first. If you tell me I can't do something, I'll find a way, because I
Which
won't I won't accept that.
that's brilliant. I think yeah, that's a great trait to have. Yeah, not to the no traits are great to the extreme, but
Oh,
that tenacity
mm,
is uh, something that I wish I had a little bit more of, but also, I think people are kind of born with it and then raised a little bit differently too.
mm,
And yeah, so it sounds like you had the right parents to be the parent to take care of this small,
mm.
tiny baby who fought. So, I mean, you literally fought from your first days.
I did. Well, my twin sister didn't survive.
Oh,
She
goodness.
lived for 10 hours, and she was bigger than me.
Wow.
I was 1 pound 9 ounces, and she was 2 pounds 1 ounce, so she was bigger than me.
Yeah.
But I obviously had all the fight enough fight for 2 of us, so I survived and she didn't. So
Yeah, feisty soul from the beginning. I
I
I
think
love
so.
a good feisty woman. That is for sure. There needs to be more of them.
My dad used to have make little mittens for me because I used to pull my tubes out in the humidity crib.
Oh my
I used to try and pull my tubes out, so they had to put little mittens on me.
oh my gosh. I bet they
So,
were the tiniest little mittens
yeah,
ever.
I think so.
Oh my I can't even imagine. And gosh, your poor parents. So I have a son that was born without an immune system, and I know the struggle that that has caused over the last almost 19 years, and the stress and the trauma. I can't imagine having a tiny baby fighting for her life and losing her sister
Mm,
at the same time. The fact that yeah, that's just an amazing story to have lived through and to come out on the other side for all three of you.
mm.
For all three of you. Um, what do you what do you attribute so I've heard you say your father military. instilled to be tenacious. What else
Mm.
do you attribute to your sense of adventure? Because I think there are people that are completely have no challenges whatsoever and yet still can't seem to leave the town that they grew up in. And yet you're climbing 10,000 feet at a mountain in Nepal. What else led to this sense of adventure for you?
I love travel. I love culture. I love trying different food. I loved it meeting different people. I remember when I went to the John Maxwell conference in 2016, I spent the whole time saying to all the lovely US people who were there, "So, which state are you from? Oh, you've got a Texan accent. Oh, and what about you? Which state are you? Oh, you're from Florida. Oh, you're a bit different. And oh my
Uh-huh.
gosh, you sound like Dolly Parton. You must come from the mountains." So, yeah, I love culture and accents and food and stuff. And I think that gives me the desire to travel. I
Sure.
love people. I love meeting different types of people. I love learning about different things. I think that is definitely what contributes to my sense of adventure. I mean, there are certainly parts of me then that are not adventurous. I still struggle with the fear of rejection. So, to make a sales call, to reach out to a new potential client is, still scares me a lot. So, I'm not perfect at that, but I'm working on it.
Yeah, I think the important thing there, and I hear it, I hear you have it, is curiosity.
Yes.
So
Yes.
kind of framing the sales call with curiosity
Mm,
might help that. And by the way, a ton of coaches have that fear.
mm,
A ton of coaches have that fear as well. So you're in good company, being a speaker and still wrestling with it. Absolutely,
mm.
it makes you human. I love that you know the difference between people in Florida and people in Texas. I think that's hilarious and it's amazing. What's an American food that you tried and you were like, huh, interesting, whether it lived up to the hype or it was overhyped?
Ooh. I was disappointed when I went to LA that every hamburger I had tasted like McDonald's. I thought McDonald's was unique, and I was surprised that so many different places we had hamburgers in the US tasted the same.
Mhm.
But, oh my gosh, I think the best thing I ever had was when we went to Disneyland. We had an ice cream sundae. I went to Disneyland in 1992,
That
and
sounds
then I
fun.
went back to Disney World in 2016,
Nice.
and I was so happy that Disney World had the same ice cream sundae that Disneyland had all those years before in a waffle cone, but it wasn't a cone, it was a bowl. It was
Yes.
And this thing was huge, it was a whole meal on its own, and I could eat the sundae and I could eat the bowl, and it was so good. Oh my
I
gosh, it was so good. So, I love
mean, that
food.
could be your third career. You could open a waffle bowl Sunday place in Canberra.
Oh my gosh, that was amazing.
Oh
Yeah.
my gosh, I love that for you. And how I would think for somebody whose other senses are heightened due to your eyes not taking that hit for your life, which
Mhm.
is, I'm sure you'd do it all over again to live for sure.
Mm.
um I imagine Disney is like a little overstimulating. How do you manage that?
Mm. No, interestingly, I didn't find it
Interesting.
stimulating. It's kind of a bit of an old wives' tale, I'm afraid, that, senses being heightened when you
Oh,
lose one, the others are heightened. Yeah, that's actually not
okay.
strictly true. It looks like that from the outside, but what it actually is I use my other senses more efficiently. So if you and I had a hearing test, our hearing would probably be the same, but the difference is I'm always listening.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Thank you for dispelling that and educating me. I
Fine.
appreciate it. That
Everyone
makes
thinks that. So,
sense.
Yeah, Disneyland was amazing. I just loved it. And I went with the most amazing guide who was really switched on. And I'll never forget when we were standing in the Snow White and Seven Dwarfs queue to get on the ride,
Mhm.
and we're going through these tunnels, and I'm touching the walls, and there was this big barrel next to me, and there was big balls in the barrel. And it's like, what are these? And she said, my friend said, oh, they're meant to be big gemstones. And I went, but they've got lots of little flat faces on them. And she said, yeah, they're the facets of the gemstone. That's what gemstones look like. And it's like, oh, wow, that's
Oh,
amazing.
wow.
So I didn't have problems in the queue at all. There was heaps of stuff to touch and questions to ask. And I loved Disney World. I thought it was amazing.
Oh, yeah,
And
that is
I had this
tactile
thing.
person's dream for
Yeah.
sure.
I had this thing about the size of a large mobile phone, and it had buttons on it, and it spoke. It talked to me, so I could press a button, and it would tell me, "You're on Main Street. These are the shops on the street, and here are the nearest toilets." And it was also describe when I went on the "It's a Small Small World" ride,
Mhm.
going past all these people and costumes and people singing. It described to me through my headphones what we were passing. It
Oh,
was so
wow.
good.
That's wow, how inclusive. I mean, it's Disney, I'm not surprised, but that's so lovely to hear.
Mm,
They've always treated us very well when we've gone with
mm,
Bryce, um,
mm.
as well because, no immune system creates a whole heck of a lot of
Gosh.
problems elsewhere, so, they've always been lovely every time we've gone too. So I love that for you, and you got to learn what facets are.
Yes,
That's amazing.
and,
That's
I'm a committed Christian, and I actually had someone spoke a prophecy over me, and they said to me that they said, "Amanda, when you speak, fear flees from people like light off the facets of a diamond," and I would never have understood that unless I'd gone
wow.
to Disneyland.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that's an amazing story.
Mm.
Yeah, you could develop a whole keynote speech around that, my friend. It's
Mm.
beautiful. It's beautiful. Talk about your speaking. It's
Oh,
the thing you do now. It's your thing.
yes,
Like, talk
it
about your
is my so I my topic is courage. And so I use stories from my life, over facing and overcoming challenges in my life and also the lives of others. It's not just about me, to help people face and overcome their challenges and build resilience. Because I firmly believe that courage is one of the building blocks of resilience. Because if resilience is the ability to bounce back from something, or change direction or similar things, courage is one of the building blocks of being able to bounce back. Because if you fall over, you have to have the courage to get up again.
Sure. Absolutely. You have to
If
have the
something
courage to
frightens you, you
try
have to have the
and
courage
even
to
fall
face
over.
it. Yes.
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely. Why is that the topic for you?
Well, I thought it was purpose. My book, Seeing by Vision, Not by Sight, which you so kindly mentioned at the beginning, that's a book about how to discover your life's purpose and put it into action. And so
Mm.
I went through this whole journey. When I was 27, I was sitting in my legal office thinking, oh, why am I here? Well, I don't know why I'm here. And thought about it, asked my friends about it, couldn't really work at it, prayed about it, even couldn't really find the answer, read books about it. No, nothing. So I forgot about it. And then when lost my job in 2014, that completely threw me for a headspin, because I was always told that government employment is safe. You get a job in the
Sure.
government, you've got a job for life. They can't get rid of you unless you're like super, super bad. And so I was completely thrown when I lost my job. And I started to wonder, why am I here? What am I meant to do? So I went on a journey to discover my life's purpose, which I did. And my life's purpose, I firmly believe, is to inspire and encourage others, because that's kind of the sort of my superpowers. I do it without thinking. It's just comes naturally to me. And so one of the chapters in the book was about courage. So you discover your life's purpose, you go through these steps, but there are tools you need along the way. And one of them is courage to, face your fears, face change, perhaps step out of what your comfort zone and step into something different. And so I thought, gosh, that would be a much easier to market, much easier topic to talk about than purpose.
Yeah, I get that. Yeah, I agree.
So,
Yeah,
yeah, and a lot more marketable. A lot more people need courage than purpose. A lot of people already have purpose, even though they don't know it. So,
sure. Or
mm,
there are people that don't even know that that purpose is a thing. They
mm,
just think, I'm going to stay in this government job because
mm,
it's what you're supposed to do, and live out life and never grow, never get
mm,
adventurous, never have the courage. And so, yeah, purpose is tricky versus courage for sure. I think that was brilliant on your part to make that little pivot. They
thanks.
all roll into the beautiful ball of life together.
Mm,
But yes, absolutely. And so you've got these 5 pillars,
mhm, I do.
and, talk about those.
So, they are fix your eyes on the prize, not the problem. Overcome what keeps you stuck. Connect with your conviction, or connect with what you really want and not what's in your head. Upgrade your courage every day, and see your success by putting courage into action. And I've put them into a little poem, which is why I was hesitating because I had
Reciting in
my
your head.
yeah, I had my corporate version. So can I share the poem?
I would love for you to share the poem, of course.
Fix your eyes on the prize, and your fear will have no space. Overcome what keeps you stuck, and see your dreams fall into place. Connect with what you really want and not what's in your head. Update your courage every day and leave those fears for dead. Remember these 4 things and you will grow your courage strong. You may not have much courage now, but it won't take too long. Even though you don't feel brave, you have all that you need. So put your courage to the test and see where it will lead. Success is putting courage into action.
That is phenomenal, my friend.
Thank
And
you.
I think, we were talking before I hit record, and she is going to be, or she is speaking. She's decided to speak to teenagers as well, and they've been tugging at her heartstrings. And I think that poem is absolutely perfect
Thank
for
you.
your new audience. I have 2 teen boys,
Mhm.
and absolutely, I saw them in every step of that, let alone adults. But yeah, I think it makes sense. It's like I'm seeing the
Aw.
puzzle pieces fit together for you.
That
So,
came to me in a line going into a restaurant on a cruise ship.
isn't that funny how that happens? Just this
Yes.
random download of, like, information, and you're like, "Oh, well, okay. Alright." Gosh, that's amazing. What would you want people to know about your experience as, somebody that has lost their sight?
It's not the end of the world. I lead a full and fulfilling and rich and satisfying life.
Mm,
I'm not someone to feel sorry for. I just do things differently, perhaps in some ways, to what sighted people do. But I still do most of the things that sighted people do.
sure, absolutely, absolutely. I think, so the boys and I, all 3 of us have ADHD, and it's
Mm,
it's the same, like, our
mm,
brains just work a little different, and it
mm,
might be a little weird to you or quirky or unique or whatever, but, there's nothing wrong with us. Our brains aren't
mhm,
damaged.
mhm,
They just work differently, and, I think that tide is finally changing, which is
mm.
great.
I
Um,
love the term neurodivergent. It's such a nice term. It's not a like there's something wrong with you term. It's not a
right.
disability term. It's just, you're different to me.
Yeah.
And I think that's a great term. And don't they say that people with ADHD make the best entrepreneurs?
I mean, yeah, we do because
Mm,
we have great creative brains, and
mm,
we pattern recognize. So
mm,
that's really helpful
mm,
just creating businesses and seeing, I don't know, pattern recognition for me is my strongest because I
mm,
read people's body language. and I hear what
Ah.
they're saying, and I see either the body language is congruent with what
Mm,
they're telling me, or
mm,
something is disconnected, and I
mm,
catch it. And I
mm,
might not know why it's, tingling, but it's the pattern recognition power
mm.
of my beautiful little neurodivergent brain. Um,
Nice.
yeah, pretty cool, right?
Mhm.
And
Mm,
I love neurodivergent too because
mm,
as a label, quote unquote, because it is encompassing of not just ADHD. It is autism.
mm,
It is MS. It is traumatic brain injury. It
mm,
is bipolar.
mm,
It's a very encompassing
mm,
label. And so, yeah, and it's just like neurodivergent, neurotypicals, cited,
mm,
not cited.
mm,
Just,
exactly.
yeah. Again, no negative or positive connotation attached to it.
Do you know, it's made me think of another story. I had the if I may,
Oh, good,
I
please do. I love
had
PhD people love stories. Go ahead.
I always used to get mad when people used to go, "Oh, you're so amazing. Oh, you're so inspiring." And I used to think, "No, I'm not. I'm just doing my everyday. I'm going to work, I'm going to school, I'm doing what everyone else does. That's not inspiring." As someone said, "I'm not inspiring because I get out of bed and brush my teeth in the morning." But
Right.
then I had a bit of an epiphany. I had the privilege of hearing Nick Vujicic speak.
Yes. Oh gosh,
Yes.
talk about a story. My
And
goodness.
he's amazing. He is just the most amazing person. And I was sitting there thinking, "Oh, I'd love to say hi to him, love to meet him." And what would I say? And I thought, "Oh," I'd say, "Oh, Nick, you're so inspiring." And then I thought, "Oh
Oh
gosh, I
gosh.
hate it when people say that to me. I really hate it." And then I thought, "You know what? It's true. I do find him inspiring. And that's not anyone's fault. It just is what it is. And if people find me inspiring, why not use that to their advantage and to help them, to inspire them, to encourage them, to give them permission, as someone said to me the other day, to
Mm,
follow their dreams."
yeah. I absolutely can relate to that because the number of times over the last almost 19 years that somebody has said to me, wow, gosh, you're just such a great mom because of
Mhm.
my son and his condition. And
Mm.
it's almost I get the feeling, and maybe you can relate to this. It almost lands in a condescending manner. It's
It
not that
does.
they meant it in
Yeah.
condescending manner, but
Mm.
what other freaking option did I have here?
That's
Like,
true.
what do you mean I'm a great mom? I'm a mother. I'm mothering my child. It just looks a little different than you mothering your child because there are just extra appointments and things we've got
Mm.
to be aware of, and things of that nature that you don't have to think about. So I
Mm.
get it, but thank you for the reframe.
Mm.
Um because yeah, who am I to say that they shouldn't find me inspiring?
Chances are you probably are a great mum. I mean, I'm sure there are mothers out there with people with disabilities who aren't great mums, who
For
who
sure.
don't do it as well as they could. They're probably doing their best, but
Right.
who knows? You probably are a great mum.
Right, right. And but it's just that, like, I just relate to what you're saying.
Mm.
I don't need a ribbon for getting up out of bed.
Mm.
Like, I mean, some days maybe. Oh, don't we all though?
Yeah.
It's like,
Oh, yeah. Mm.
nothing sets me apart. I'm doing what you would do for your child. My
Mm.
child is just a little, he's a little different in
Mm.
his immune
Mm.
system aspect. So
Mm.
I thank you. I feel seen by that story
Oh,
because
I'm
you
glad.
get it, and it
Yeah.
made connected the dots for me
Mm.
because yeah, it's always been that, like, the little uncomfortable, like, "Don't that yeah, whatever,
Mm.
man, don't tell me that." I'm doing what I have to do, because
Mm.
I love my kids, so that's
Mm.
just what it takes,
Mm.
for sure. Talk about why you wanna talk to teenagers now, because I think what you were telling me earlier is so it's we need to talk it's being talked about, but we need to elevate and amplify that conversation.
Two things. I went to a beautiful program called The Cottage, and it's a program here in Canberra which helps high school students who can't, for whatever reason, go to school. Perhaps they're being bullied, perhaps they have abusive parents, perhaps they've got anxiety, for whatever reason, they can't go to school. So the cottage puts them through this program over 2 school terms, and it gets them from 1 day at school, 4 days at the cottage, to 4 days at school, 1 day at the cottage.
Awesome.
And they do all sorts of, social things, life skills, education, psychological support, all sorts of things. And so I know someone who works there, and I said, "Oh, look, can I come and speak some courage into them?" And I was speaking away, and all of a sudden, these 4 students were saying nothing, not a peep, until one of them shrieked. And I wasn't talking anything about scary or horrible or anything that would make someone shriek. And then she said, "Oh, sorry, I've got complex PTSD."
Oh,
And I
baby.
said, "Oh, what's that?" And she said, "'Cause I thought PTSD, I think of like war veterans and,
Yeah.
people like that." And she said, "Oh, it's PTSD, which is usually, which you can usually get from long-term abuse." And I thought, "Oh gosh, that's awful." And I couldn't stop thinking about it. I just couldn't stop thinking about it. It just broke my heart. And then I heard another story which made me cry the other day, which was about a teenage boy. He went on holidays with his family, and he spent the whole time texting his grandmother going, "I don't want to be here. I don't want to be here. I wish I was at home." And then he slept in the car that night before they left because he was afraid of being left behind.
Oh my goodness. Oh,
So I
that
thought, I've
breaks my
got to do
heart.
something about this. I've got to do something about this.
Yeah.
It's I've got to. So
Yeah,
yeah.
for sure. So what kind of connections, for if anybody's listening, um, what kind of connections do you need to make this happen?
I I need people who work with young people. People who work, perhaps in guide groups, scout groups, schools, anyone who wants me to come and speak courage into the young people. Whether it's a group of 2, whether it's a group of 200, I don't care. I just want to speak courage into young people and let them know that there is an alternative, that they will survive, even though it feels like they won't. And I get that, but they will survive and they will get through this, and life will get better. And yeah, so just, if you know or work with young people who might like to hear that message, please do reach out. I'm on LinkedIn, and Stacey's got my details, and she's also got my email address. So yeah, please do just reach out. Happy to do it virtually if it's overseas, happy to do it physically if it's here in Australia. So yeah.
Um, I love that you said that, they feel like they won't survive, but they can. I did lose my brother to
Mhm.
death by suicide almost
Oh.
8 years ago, and he was troubled through his whole teen years, and I thought that once we got through them, that we'd be okay, but obviously,
Mm.
he was 32 when he
Oh.
left,
Oh, I'm sorry.
and so I love that you're bringing that message. Did you experience that in your teenage years? First of all of us kinda do, because teenage years are
Mm,
rough,
mm,
period,
mm.
but on top of that, you shared with me earlier that you were bullied at one point in time. Would you talk about that kind of process and healing for yourself?
The process thankfully wasn't that bad. I wasn't physically injured. It was more just isolating. People wouldn't talk to me. People wouldn't include me in their groups. People would tease me. So it was, mainly verbal teasing. So it wasn't as bad as it can be, thank goodness. But I felt so lonely and so isolated. And it wasn't until that I was actually writing my keynote for teenagers that I had to pull all that stuff out and relive it. And oh gosh, it was hard. I just
Mm,
wanted to gloss over it and say, "Oh, I was bullied at school." It's like, no, you have to tell the story of what it was like, how lonely it felt, how sad you were, how totally isolated. Spending 4 years sitting alone in the school corridor in between 2 groups of students was neither of them will talk to you.
oh god.
Um, my coping mechanism was I started to read. So I thought, okay, I'm sitting here for an hour. I'm bored. What am I going to do? I might read the school notes for the next class, or I might read ahead in my textbook. So I did very, very well academically because I had all that extra time to work.
Your
So
distraction.
I would work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I am so sorry. My heart breaks for young Amanda in that, a and I think I'm glad you're still here because I think the loneliness and
Yeah.
isolation kills people faster than the physical for sure, because it breaks your spirit. It just breaks
Yeah.
your spirit. And, we are tribes. Like,
Yes.
we need to belong for safety, and that
Yes.
community is important to us. And when that is, uh, taken from you or not shared with you,
Mm.
yeah, that experience is very, very, very isolating and lonely.
I
Um
also got a pet mouse, which I used to look after in my lunch breaks too, the last couple of years of school. Timmy the white mouse made me very happy, um, for a while until he got together with the brown mouse and they had babies, and then I wasn't allowed to have them anymore. So, yes, I used to spend lots of time in the agricultural science area playing with my mouse. So,
That's
and I
cool.
and I have my mum. I'm in very close to my mum. Not so much when I was a teenager, but I knew that I was loved. I think that's the one thing that kept me going. I knew that my mum loved me, even though I didn't like her very much most of the time.
Sure.
I knew that when push came to shove, I had a roof over my head, I had food in my mouth, I wasn't being abused in any way by my parents, and my
Mhm.
mum loved me.
Yeah, I mean,
So,
that's super important when you've got
mm,
that foundation, at least one somebody in the world has your back.
mm,
For
mm.
sure, for sure.
'Cause
Uh,
my dad was the strict authoritarian, my mum was the one who would give me praise. She said to me once, "I don't care whether you get an A or an F, as long as you did your best, that's all that matters." Whereas dad was all about, "Well, you got an A, you got a B plus. Why didn't you get an A? What did you do wrong?" And I mean, I know he was just trying to, the tone was all wrong, but I know the words were, he was trying to give constructive criticism and couldn't,
mm,
because he'd never experienced that in his life. But mum balanced that out with praise and love and yeah, that sort of thing. So I was very fortunate to have them both.
oh gosh, yeah, absolutely. My parents were very much ground me for C's, so I
Mm.
get it. I get it. My dad was also military, so
Mm.
yeah, common theme there. Common theme there. For sure. I had this discussion with them in July for the first time about about pushing me like
Mm.
that, and that kind of quote unquote motivation.
Mm.
And he was like, "Well, I just wanted you to do your best." And I said,
Yeah.
"Y- that's not what you said though. That's not how it
Mm.
came across. It
No.
was you do this or you are a failure or you
Yeah.
are in trouble." And
Mm.
so, this performative person that I developed into is now exhausted. She's very
Mm.
tired.
Mhm. Mhm.
46. She's very tired.
Yeah.
And I don't want to perform anymore. And
Mm.
also, didn't know at the time, but I was neurodivergent. And so with that comes masking,
Ah.
which added on to the performative nature. And that is so exhausting. I just was diagnosed in the last year. So,
What was that last word? I missed it. With that comes what?
um, with that, with that comes masking.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Masking, mhm,
Mhm.
which means, like, putting on a performance for everybody outside of yourself because you are trying to be accepted and liked and make up for what you see are shortcomings of your brain.
Oh, yeah. I can, yeah, relate to that in
I bet.
a bit. Yeah. Mm.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's another little tidbit for your teens,
Mm.
especially if they're neurodivergent. It is a thing. It's called masking. And
Mm.
I'm sure you can relate because you have felt like, oh, well, I have to perform bigger, harder, stronger, faster. Like your dad said, you've got to be
Mm.
better than everybody else
Mm.
in
Mm.
order to get ahead. And that's, yeah, but we do it to ourselves. The
Mm.
neurodivergents do it to ourselves. And we say it's because our brain's broken. Like, this is
Mm.
clearly I'm dumb in this area.
Mm.
So let me hyperachieve in other areas. And it makes for a nasty little stew in your teenage years for sure, for sure.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, yikes. So earlier you told me you have a dog and a budgie. So
Mhm.
and you had your little mice. You're an animal
Mhm.
lover, clearly. Um,
Yes.
Tell me about your dog.
My dog, she's my guide dog.
Mhm.
And her name is Sadie. She's 9.5 years old and she's a yellow Labrador. And she's great. She's great. She does a lot of the PR work that I do. I do a lot of public relations work for guide dogs. I'm what they call a lived experience presenter. So I go around and speak to groups and train bus drivers on how to make bus travel better for people with a vision loss. And I have a little blue budgie called Maestro who is being very quiet at the moment, thankfully. I've got my door shut, but she still cheeps, has this gift of knowing when I'm on a Zoom or a call or a video, and she cheeps super loud, but she's being really quiet at the moment, probably because it's cloudy. So she's a beautiful blue budgie who flies around the house and leaves little budgie messages everywhere. And so always have to check my shoulders before I go anywhere. Um,
I'm sure. I'm
so
sure.
yeah,
And
the bud.
how does Sadie help you? Does she come on stage with you? Like, what's that like?
Sometimes she does, sometimes she doesn't. In one of my keynotes, I used to talk about setting goals, and I used guide dog training as one of my goals, learning how to use a guide dog. And I decided not to have Sadie on stage with me because I was giving guide dog commands and I didn't want her to be confused and think that I wanted her to go forward and left and right and stop and find the seat and whatever on stage. So she used to sit in the audience, but I could certainly now, with my new keynote where I don't talk about guide dog training, she could certainly be on stage with me.
Oh, I bet the
Um,
kids loved her.
Not
Oh,
that she's part of the story, but she could certainly be an icebreaker. Yeah.
yeah, absolutely.
Mm.
Who doesn't love a dog? I absolutely love a dog. Um,
Yeah.
how many commands do you think she has, or do you know in a solid number?
The main ones are like left, right, stop, forward, find the, and to the curb, find the steps, find the seat. So they're all the main, find the door. They're all sort of the main everyday ones. But then she's got destinations. So they're commands as well. So find the chemist, find the hairdresser, find Subway. They're all places that I've taught her using food
Awesome.
rewards. And so now she knows them by name. And so I walk to the shopping center, and then when I get to the front door of the shopping center, it's like, okay, Sades, find the chemist. And so she knows that the chemist is all halfway down the left hand side, and so do I. But so it's not. People think that when you have a guide dog, you sort of go into autopilot and the dog does all the work. But I like to tell people it's kind of like being guided by a 5-year-old.
Yeah,
The
really.
5-year-old knows they're supposed to walk in a straight line, and they're not supposed to walk you into anything, and they're not supposed to run across the road. And they recognize things, but they occasionally will go off script and get distracted or something like that. So I've still got 95% of the responsibility, but she'll target the door and we're close by. She'll find me a seat. In fact, more often than not, she's likely to go and put her head on someone's lap rather than find me an empty seat because she loves people. So yeah.
Oh my gosh, what a sweet, sweet baby. And
Mm,
I'm always fascinated by service dogs because
mm,
mine are lazy and it's my own fault because clearly dogs are very capable of
mm,
learning a multitude of things. And it
mm,
always fascinates me to see service dogs in action.
mm,
However that may be for whomever. Maybe they're detecting low blood sugar. Maybe
mm,
they're a sight dog. Maybe they're, a seizure detector.
mm,
Like what it just fascinates me, and
mm,
we do not deserve dogs, in my
mm,
opinion, at all.
mm, mm.
I want you to finally talk a little bit before we go. I want you to talk about the assistance that is out there because you brought it up earlier, and I think you called it IRA. I
Yes.
also know Be My Eyes. Because
Yes, very
my
similar.
best friend
Mhm.
volunteers for Be My Eyes because
Oh,
her brother lost his eyes due to diabetes, and
oh,
so she started volunteering for Be My Eyes, and we were tooling around one day and she was
mm,
like, "Oh, hold on a second, shh." And she got on with this gentleman to read his medicine label. And
oh.
my heart was just, I love her. She's my best friend. But it just grew even bigger. Talk about the opportunities for sighted people that exist like that in order to help people with challenges.
There's definitely Be My Eyes, which is a wonderful service. I too have used Be My Eyes. The reason I choose Ira is it provides a very similar service, but unlike Be My Eyes, the people are paid. They work shifts, they're paid. It's open to anyone who's in the US or who a lot of Ira agents are actually living in other countries, but they're spouses of US service
Oh,
people,
okay.
servicemen and women. So I've spoken to an IRA agent in Spain. I've spoken to one in Germany. I've spoken to one in Portugal. Portugal, I think so. Anyway, so yeah, they actually get paid. So if your friend wants paid to do that, I don't know what the wages are like, but yeah, go to apply. They're always looking for agents. They've thankfully, because they've got agents all over the world now who are US citizens, IRA is now available 24/7 because in
Mm.
Australia it used to be from like midnight here till 10 a.m. or something, and then you'd have the whole afternoon with nothing. So it's wonderful that we have IRA 24/7. They also, I think they have like 6 weeks training.
Oh, okay.
And they also have like a dashboard so they can see where I am. They can see where I am on a Google map. They can see
Oh,
that my preference is to have distance read to me in centimeters. They know that I've got a guide dog called Sadie. And yeah, so it's I have to pay for it. I mean, the government pays for it for me, which is amazing. So that's why that's the only reason I choose IRA over Be My Eyes, because they're trained, they're highly
sure.
trained people, and I know that time because they're being paid. So
Very cool.
I've even had agents describe theatre to me. When I've been to a show that isn't audio described, I let the theatre ushers know, and I had used to have my phone on a chest mount, but now I have glasses which connect to Ira, and the agents, they love it because they get to see a show for
Oh
free
my gosh,
and they get to
yes,
describe to me what's going on. So,
yes.
yeah.
So that I'm sorry, I've got one more question because that leads me
Mm,
into that. Talk about the assistive stuff that is out there now, like the audio assistants. Like for me, the biggest one that I've noticed lately are the alternative texts on social
yes.
media platforms where you talk about the importance of actually taking the time to utilize those.
Oh, I love those because without alt text, it just says picture. And it's like, well, what picture? And Facebook is getting better at actually describing the pictures, but it just makes my heart glad when there's a nice little alt text description. It's a man, holding a ball in his hand and smiling. It's like, oh, now I know. And even people put alt text on their logos now, so I know what their logos look like. And it just makes it so much more interesting, social media. And I confess I have to remember to put alt text on my own images that I post, but I think, oh, well, it's mainly sighted
Good.
people, so I'm
Thank
gonna do it.
you.
Um, there's also services, audio description. So you've got a lot more of that in the US than we do here, but it is getting better on live television. There's on 2 channels that we have, some of the programs are audio described. So, and any stuff that's made by Netflix, Amazon, Apple, Stand, all those ones, they have to be Disney, they have to be audio described, the native stuff that they make. So you'll be watching a movie and there'll be a silence and they'll say, the woman scratched her head and looked thoughtful.
Oh,
So
good.
they'll describe what's going on in the movie. So in a very high action movie, sometimes they start describing things before it happened. Like I remember watching Matrix and they said, oh, he hit him with a roundhouse kick, and then you hear bang. And it's like, oh, okay. And by the time the bang's going on, they're describing something else that's about to happen because there was so much happening. You just couldn't fit it in between the words. So it's amazing. There's bus, you said in the bio that I was terrified of catching buses. I got to the point where I was housebound because I wouldn't go anywhere unless someone drove me. I was so afraid of getting lost.
Wow.
And I hadn't caught a bus for like 20 years. And then I got on a bus with someone. I did 2 weeks intensive training, and I got on the bus and realized they have announcements. It tells you what the next stop is. It's
Mm,
great.
mhm.
Yeah. And so that's yeah, there's all sorts of lovely audio things. There's still a lot of work to do. There's washing machines now and vacuum cleaners that I can connect to my phone and work them through my phone, but there's still a lot of work to be done with touch screen kiosks and things like that, which are unusable. They have those awful Albert terminals now for FPOS machines, and they're completely flat. They don't have any raised buttons on them to press to type in your
Oh.
PIN number. So
Mhm.
tap to pay has been a wonderful thing. Um, so
Yeah.
yeah, so there's still work to be done, but it's getting so much better. Apple has voice built into all its products, so I just have to press Command F5 and VoiceOver turns on and speaks to me what's on the screen.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I think even people that don't need to use it, I still use like the flashing light for
Mm,
text messages.
mm,
That is because uh, when I don't, my phone is not on. The ringer
mm,
is not on. It hasn't been on in
mm,
years. So with a
mm,
flashing light, I'm like, oh, okay, text message, or saying SIRI now, and
mm, mm.
her coming up and saying, yeah, how can I help you, or ALEXA also
Yep.
is one. So yeah, it is getting more inclusive, and I could not be happier to live in this time where we
Oh, me too. My
are
whole home is automated. I
so
didn't
cool.
realize how much I missed it until my Wi-Fi broke because I was changing Wi-Fi providers and I did something wrong and didn't plug the cable into the right port on the box, and my lights all turning off. I can because being totally blind, I don't know whether the lights are on, so I can say, "Hey, SIRI,
Uh-huh.
what's the status of the lights?
Oh, wow.
Are there any
Yeah.
lights on in the house? Is the garage door closed? Um, set the heating to 20 degrees or, whatever it is."
Yeah, I think that'd be around 70 here,
70,
maybe.
yes, yes, you read my mind. I thought, "Oh, hang on, they're not gonna understand that, 70."
Max,
Yes.
carry the 2. Yeah, I think it's about 70.
Apparently at -40 degrees Fahrenheit height and -40 degrees Celsius apparently are the same.
It is the same. Mhm.
Yes,
That is
I read
the
that yesterday and I thought, "Oh, that's amazing. Okay."
and also very, very cold.
It is. It is. I
So
can't compute that amount of cold. It doesn't
yeah, me
get that cold here. So
I live in Las Vegas, so no, it doesn't get that cold here either.
Ah, okay.
Doesn't get cold here either. Um, well, oh my gosh, I've had such thank you. This has been so educational and so lovely. And like I said earlier, thank you for making me feel seen and connecting some dots for me. Um, because yeah, I definitely have struggled with people saying, "Oh, you're such a great mom," or "Wow, that's so inspiring," and it's like,
Mm,
it's just a mom, like, just,
mm,
okay, all right, thanks. But yes,
mhm.
thank you, I appreciate that. And of course, the education, always excuse my naivety. It was
No,
definitely not
not at
meant
all.
to offend at any point in time. So thank you for being so open and so gracious.
Mm,
Tell everybody if they want to hire you as a speaker, and she does do international, you guys. So it is not in the confines only of Australia. But
mhm.
tell everybody where they can find you, and of course, it'll be linked in the description below.
So I thank you so much, and thank you for your lovely ideas and information about masking. I will definitely write that down, and
Thousand
you
percent.
inspire me to reach out to other groups. So I'm on all the social media, but I mainly put most of my concentration into LinkedIn at the moment. So I'm on linkedin.com/in/Amanda J. Heal, because my middle name is Jane. So Amanda J. Heal. I'm pretty much Amanda J. Heal on everything: Facebook, Instagram, um, LinkedIn, everywhere. So, but you're better off to either message me on LinkedIn or email me. And my email is amanda at amandaheal.com.au, which is also my website, amandaheal.com.au. I have a contact form on there. You can contact me through there as well. You can see my setup. So that's what virtual would look like if I was
Cool.
to do a virtual thing. Yeah. So,
Amazing. So you guys go check her out. If you are anyone that works with teenagers on a regular basis, the Boys and Girls Club, any government officials, DCFS. There's different. It's where they. What is it? There's something about rehoming in Australia, like when they pull the children out of the home.
oh,
Um,
yes. Yes.
yeah,
Community services. Yeah.
community services. Thank you. It's
And
always
there's also this, if you want to lead a
yes.
more purposeful life.
Hold it up just a little
That's
bit more. There you go, right there. Thank you so much. I love it that it's a lighthouse. So seeing by vision, not by sight. You guys go check that out. I'm
it's
sure
in
it's
all
on.
the usual places.
I'm
It's you
sure
can
it is
even
on
get it from Barnes
Amazon.
and Noble in the US. I've got it listed there as well. So
Oh,
yeah,
beautiful!
or
Yeah,
online you can get the hardcover or the soft cover shipped to you from the US, so it won't cost you a fortune. Don't worry.
there you go.
And yeah,
There you go. So go grab
thank
that
you.
and yeah, contact her and have her come and speak to the teens because after the last 4 years, we're just now starting to get an inkling
Yeah,
of the impact of the last 4 years, and it is not pretty.
I also
So
do churches as well. So happy to do
that is
youth groups, churches. Yep.
yeah, absolutely. She's a Christian, so any
Sorry, I
church
keep
leaders
interrupting you.
no, 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 girlfriend, I don't care.
Yeah.
No, please. I love it. No, I told you. Whatever, all call to action. So have like absolutely. So church leaders, community leaders, anybody that's working with teens on a consistent basis, reach out to her. I think she's going to now have a beautiful keynote about masking and the effects of that and performative because she's experienced something very similar with her with not being cited as well and feeling like gotta be better than everybody else. So I think it's going to be lovely, and I'm excited for you to build that speech as well. So
Thank
thank you
you.
again for coming, and I appreciate you. And thank you again for watching. You guys do all the YouTubey things. Y'all already know. Like, subscribe, hit the bell. I will be going live next week with one of my guests, so that's exciting. And if you have any comments for Amanda, leave them below, and I'll let her know that they're there. And yeah, I just want to remind you guys, it takes just a few short minutes a day to rewire your brain, to change your habit, to feel differently about life. And but you just have to want it. And there's always help out there. And Amanda is one of those beautiful helpers out there. So go reach out to her. Thank you so much for your time and have a great day, you guys. Mwah! I love you, and I'll see you next time.